couldn't reconcile the fact of how fucking cool he was and how fucking funny he was.
Sit at my desk and write dick jokes and do stand-up.
Sweetheart, are you looking for the bathroom?
Yeah, I'm a fucking hipster.
Yeah, so I had a baby.
Yeah.
And you got married.
I got married,
It
yeah.
was a great wedding.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
It was wonderful. We had such a good time.
Yeah, it was crazy. We had to replan a whole wedding in 9 days because of the fires.
Yeah, we were just kind of outrunning it.
Yeah. And so we replanned our whole wedding in 9 days. And it was great.
It didn't feel like it was replanned.
Yeah.
Everything was so fun.
I would honestly say it was better than what we had planned.
Really?
Well, the original venue
was
was
great.
like,
It was so good.
Yeah, the original venue was really nice, but we kind of got a venue upgrade.
That was a really beautiful venue.
Yeah, and it was the first venue that we looked at, but it was out of our price range, so we didn't think it was going to happen. And then it turns out if you call a place like 8 days before or 7 days before a wedding and they have that day open, they are willing to be flexible on budget.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, it was still above what we had budgeted, so we still had to go up a notch in budget to get it, but we definitely saved some money on what they would have charged us if we would have went there originally.
So the lesson is plan your wedding last minute.
Last minute wedding. It's just like planning a normal wedding, but way more stressful.
And then right after, when did you leave for your honeymoon? Like a day?
We left the next day.
Holy
We
cow.
did it old school. I guess old school is people would leave that night, but yeah, we literally just got the next night. We flew out to Tokyo at midnight and got into Tokyo at like 4 or 5 in the morning. And it was just absolutely, we got in and we were like both in kind of rough shape.
Sure. Yeah.
And we were like, got to the hotel and the hotel was like, all right, so check-in's not till 3 p.m.
Oh, no.
And it was like 4 or 5. It was like 5 a.m. I think we landed at like 4:30 in the morning. We got in early and it was just like, okay. And they were like, we can hold your bags for you. And like, okay. And luckily, like 2 blocks away was a ramen place that I love and I've been to that is 24 hours.
Oh.
So I was just like, let's go get some breakfast ramen. And we went and got ramen. And then my now wife, who I lovingly refer to as Chutch, she was kind of got sick at the wedding and from all the pollution in the air in LA. So she kind of had a cold. So we made it through. It was probably like 6:30 in the morning. And she was just like, nope, we're paying for early check-in. And basically had to pay like almost a full night's. And then we went back and like passed out.
Sure.
But like, I love Tokyo so much. Like Tokyo is now up there with Paris as like my favorite city.
I've still never been. I've wanted to go for years.
It's shockingly affordable. Like Tokyo is cheaper than any almost like the only expensive part was the hotel room. You can book a Zipare flight to Tokyo between like $450 and $700 right now.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's
and
like
if
a
you
flight
want
to visit my in-laws in Knoxville.
Exactly. And like I'm telling you, like Michelin star ramen, like 2 bowls for the both of us was under $12.
Oh my God.
And like we went to the nicest. We had a little bit of an incident where she found 2 different. Her favorite food sushi, and she found through Reddit 2 different sushi restaurants, and she was like, "Okay, we're gonna go to these 2." And we misunderstood. She thought the first one was $80 for us each, and it turned out to be $500 for us both. So that was our like baller meal, and it was a one-on-one, just the 2 of us and the sushi chef. Like sit down, and he made us like 20 courses of sushi. Like,
is this your first meal?
No, that was like our second day in town.
Oh my gosh.
And it was insane. It was really good.
Sure.
Like, yeah,
sure.
You would hope it would be. But the amount of pressure of just you and the sushi chef, and he's putting every piece in front of you, and it's just the 2 of you, it's like, it was too much pressure for me. It's like doing stand-up for an audience of 1.
That feels really uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie.
I was like, I'm not like a pro sushi person either. Like, I like sushi. I've been out to have it plenty of times, but you know what I mean? But I was just like, this is too much.
How far are you from the chef?
As far as I am from you right now. For those of you between the two cameras, you'll see my hand. It was like
2.5, 3 feet.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And it's just him, his like assistant lady, and me and Chudge. And we're just sitting there, and it's just like, oh no. You know what I mean? Like, you get there, and we were like running a little late because we got lost a little bit. It turns out Tokyo, they don't take credit cards for the subway. You have to pay in cash or like one of their kinds of cards. So you can't just like hit it with a debit card.
Oh, okay. Well, in New York wasn't that way until very recently. Right?
Yeah. And so it was just like, how the hell do we do this? And so we just like had to hop in a cab so we could make the reservation. And we were like, oh no, it's going to be packed. And we show up, and everything in Tokyo, like, it's secret levels everywhere. So like, you see a building, you're like, this is
Tokyo also doesn't have a lot of street signs, right? Like
I don't remember seeing many. No,
I've like worked on documentary stuff about this. How like a lot of Tokyo business cards are just a map with a dot. I mean, like, it's in between this and this, and
it's a lot of that. And like everything you read on Reddit it's very confusing how to find it. Like, you would go to a building, and then it would just be like in an office building on the 4th floor, and you would take an elevator up, and then all of a sudden you're in a sushi restaurant.
That's crazy.
And the first time I ever experienced that was in Hong Kong. There was a comedy club there called The Riff, and it was in like a 30-story like apartment/office building, and I was like, how is anybody going to find this? And now after this trip on Tokyo, I'm just like, oh, this is just what they do.
It's just the culture.
Like, you want to go to this chicken sandwich restaurant, it's in the 3rd basement of this floor. Or you'd be like, oh, all of a sudden I'm in this like mall, and then on the top floor is this coffee shop restaurant.
I feel like I've seen Instagram videos about this. You can't miss this place, and someone walking through like an office park.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of like, oh, it's like everything's a secret.
That's
you know
wild.
what I mean? And so then the next meal we went to, I was like panicking a little bit because I was like, oh no, what the hell is going to happen? Are we going to walk into another? But that one was $50 for the two of us.
Oh, okay.
And it was the best meal of my life.
Really?
Like, out of control. Like, every bite of sushi, you were just like, I don't know what this is and what's happening. They told you what everything is, but like,
at a certain point, it means nothing.
No, they would be like, this is what it's called in Japanese, this is what it's called in English. But like, you know, I had never had like uni before.
Sure.
And like, it like literally like part of my brain like went out of my head when I ate it, because I was just like, what the hell is this? And now, since we've been like, it's the weird thing too is now it's like similar to this guy. Like, my sleep patterns are all screwed up. Like, the first night we got back, I maybe got like I slept like 2 or 3 hours on the plane, and then we were like, we're gonna stay up for a while, and then I like fell asleep on the sofa for like 2 or 3 hours, and then like later that night managed to get 8 hours sleep. But now I'm just waking up between like 5 and 3 in the morning, and we're just like awake.
Oh, you're on my schedule.
Yeah, I haven't got more than like.
Wow, welcome to the party.
Yeah, I haven't
sucks.
Yeah, I haven't got more than like 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night in the past couple of days.
Yeah,
so
no, you'll be fine.
I'm hearing myself talking now, and I'm like, there's a lot of ums and thus in what I'm saying at the moment. But it was, so then we went to Thailand, and we just started out in the nicest resort I've ever seen in my life, and just kind of slowly worked our way backwards to like hut on a beach. And it was great, but it was, by the end of it, we were both like, get us to fucking Bangkok. You know what I mean?
Because both of you are very high-functioning, ambitious city people.
Yes.
And I'm sure her beach life takes its toll.
Her favorite thing in the world is the beach.
Ah.
And so that's why we did so much beach. But even by the end of it, she was like, I would like to see Bangkok. You know what I mean? Like, I read like 5 books.
That's incredible.
And I'm dyslexic and a very slow reader. You know what I mean? So like, the fact that I read that much is like a sign that like there was literally just like nothing to do. Like, one of the places, there was like 5 resorts on this teeny tiny island, and to call them resorts is generous. And there was like, which one of the 3 restaurants you want to go to? That kind of thing. But one of the craziest things was there was an Italian guy who had an Italian restaurant on one of the little remote islands. I think it was on Koh Mook. We were in the Trang islands region of Thailand. And he went there on vacation and he was like, I like this place. I'm going to open an Italian restaurant here. And there was like excellent, like some of the best Italian food I've ever eaten in my life.
And you've been to Italy a bunch.
I've
too.
been to Italy a bunch. Yeah. And so it was just this like crazy like experience of like, I'm just eating world-class bolognese.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's like a weird, that would kind of mess with my head a little bit.
Yeah. And it's funny, like I love Thai food, but after like,
I love Thai food.
yeah, but after
Love
like
it.
18 days of Thai food in like remote areas, like where it would be like either amazing or like real miss kind of thing. At the end, I was just like, I found a place that called like Mrs. Something's that just had like burgers, and I was just like,
American
I'm
food
having a
in
hamburger
foreign
right now.
countries, like the way they sort of organize it, or just say like, this is what Americans eat. It is a crazy slop of like burgers, of course, but then like Shamrock Shake.
Yeah. The craziest part about Thailand is every restaurant we went to had world cuisine. So it would literally, they would be like, this is our Thai food section. This is our American food section. This is our like European food section. And they could make all of it.
Wow.
And and you're like in a hut on a road in the middle of nowhere. And you're like, how the hell are they doing like a mise en place back there? You're just like, this is so nuts. But it was
Can
incredible.
I ask a question about the intimate sushi dinner?
Yeah.
Something popped into my head. I feel like I've read about like Americans, the pressure on Americans for like smiling, like American culture is very much like, hey, how are you? Small talk, that kind of like chit chat stuff.
Yeah.
I'm curious because you have traveled so much more than me. Did you feel like as an American in that situation, like I feel the pressure to be like, how do you like being a sushi chef? Like doing that kind of
stuff.
Like acknowledging the help, like the staff.
Yeah.
you know?
We definitely,
talking to the Uber driver, you know?
he was like running his set, if that makes sense. Like he had his like things to talk to. So he was like, I've been a sushi chef for this long. I started out here. It took me this long to become a sushi chef. It normally takes 10 years. I did it in 7.
Okay.
Like, this is what... And
It's
he
like a
had,
docent for the sushi industry.
yeah, and he had like little jokes that you could tell were like kind of canned. But he was like really nice and really on it. But it's weird because he's just watching you eat every single bite of
That's
food.
so
and
weird.
react.
That's
Where like the second...
at a certain point, you're just like, yummy.
Yeah, and the weirdest part was like, even I liked the food, but by the end, it was so much food just for the two of us. Like, I had to say, like, you can finish mine. And I was like, I love it. I was like, I can't eat anymore. And it was like literally the last bite, luckily. But like, too much pressure to just be like, sir, stop feeding me food. And also stop looking at me.
You're making me remember the one and only time I went to the Magic Castle, and now realizing how much sushi chefs and magicians have in common. Just like can joke, a lot of sleight of hand. Yeah,
It's a lot of this. And then a quarter appears or a piece of wasabi.
Yeah, and then sometimes you're generally like with the magician show, a magic show. You're like, oh, how the fuck did they do that,
Dude.
But then there's a lot of like, oh yeah.
Yeah, the first guy had like charts to explain like where the different slices of tuna were coming from on.
It's probably interesting to a point.
Yeah, it was. It was really cool, but it was just too much pressure. Where the second one we went to, that was only $50 for the two of us, Shibuya Sushi Labo, if you're thinking about going to Tokyo. And that one, it was like they had 2 different chefs, and then you were either on a side that sat 8 people or a side that sat like I think like 10 people, and that was the whole restaurant.
Wow.
To the point where afterwards, Chutch was like, I don't know how the finances of this place work. You know what I mean? She was like, it makes no sense. She was like, this cost us like $50. And we ate like a 20-course meal, or maybe like an 18-course meal. And like, granted, it's all like one bite, but it's like unreal food. And there's like, they do 4 seatings a day.
Yeah, I mean, we're so used to like hearing about like restaurant stories in New York.
And
where
like
it's just
6 people work there. And you're just like, I don't get.
Do you think it's like a government that cares about its people? Is that maybe something
I
to
think
do with it?
everything is just affordable there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where it's like like I said, you can get 2 bowls of ramen for $12. That literally, it's that funny thing where you leave America and you're just like, oh, it's just really overpriced here for not that great quality. And if you want great quality in America, like the hardest thing about coming back to America from a place like Japan is you get these 2 beautiful bowls of ramen for $12 that like blow your brain, and then the next day you come home and you're going to your local coffee shop, you get 2 breakfast sandwiches, 2 cups of coffee, and I bought a bag of whole beans and it was $60. And I was like, that was more expensive than the best meal I've ever had in my life when I was in Tokyo. And it makes you go like, why do I live here?
Well, I want to ask you, I feel like when you travel somewhere, especially abroad, and it's more than like 5 days.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a moment for me at least where like you're like, why wouldn't I just live here? And then there's a few days later where you're like, I cannot wait to go back to my garbage country. Did you hit that moment, or were you just like, I'm moving to Tokyo?
When we were in the endless beach phase, towards the end of that, with like nothing to do, I was like, I cannot wait to go home and sit at my desk and write dick jokes and do stand-up. I was like really looking forward to it. But then we got to Bangkok and I was like, this city's cool as hell. And then we flew back to Tokyo for one night to make our connecting flight home. And I didn't want to leave Tokyo. I was like jacked. I was like, oh, I could go for another week here.
Oh God, I want to go so bad.
Yeah.
Bree and I had many close calls of like, oh, are we gonna, I think before this guy was starting to cook, we're like, maybe we should finally do, and like we have a 2-year-old, and then he's began showing up. And we're like, it might be a number of years before we get to do that.
I don't. Yeah, you sat at my wedding with Joel McHale.
Yeah,
and Joel started taking his kids to Tokyo pretty young.
Oh, really?
Like that's like one of their family vacation places, if I remember correctly.
Okay, Joel and Sarah, lovely people,
amazing,
so sweet.
Yeah, he's gonna be a guest on here soon.
Oh my God, we talked about Seattle for a lot.
Yeah.
For a lot? That's how 2 humans talk.
Yeah.
We did lots of talking about Seattle.
That's his hometown. He's a big fan.
They met in Seattle. They're both Seattle folks.
Yeah.
I love Seattle.
They met in like, I think they were in college still. I'm pretty sure. Sweet. They've been together forever.
They're absolutely lovely.
Yeah, they're the best.
And then I sat next to the other Shane
Smith.
Yeah.
A long time comedy sweetheart buddy of mine.
Absolute lovely guy.
Yeah.
What a great wedding.
You're at a fun table.
I was at a great table.
Yeah.
And then I got to chat with Alexis about New York, and I've told you this story about I think I was told on this show, our show, about my Uncle Eddie's ashes in the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that on one of the pilot episodes that have never come out.
Yeah.
Which we have like maybe 3 or 4 in the can of.
Yeah, I think we have about 3.
Yeah, which maybe one day we'll release.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
It'll be fun for the diehard fans.
Yeah.
But I get to tell, because is he Brooklyn? No, or is he Bronx?
Alexis lives in Brooklyn, is from Newark.
From Newark. Oh, right.
Yeah.
No, man, does he have, I don't think I've experienced such New York energy.
Yeah. Him and his wife.
Oh my God.
Who officiated our wedding.
Yeah, she was a total sweetheart. But Alexis's New York energy is just like, because he's not Italian, he's Cuban, yeah?
Yeah.
He is so Italian.
His wife is Italian.
Ah, well, either way. It's New York. We're like, New Yorkers are all a little Jewish, a little Italian, no matter what you are.
You imagine he was born with a deli built around him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I just, oh my God, wait a minute. I might have told you the story at the wedding, but you probably had a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
My extremely pregnant wife walks into the sort of like, we're milling around before the ceremony starts, and she just has to use the bathroom 15 times an hour.
Yeah.
And so she walks into that big seating area, and she's kind of like doing the look of like, where am I supposed to go? And this woman gets up and goes, "Sweetheart, are you looking for the bathroom?" She says, yeah, it's up the stairs. And you go, that is JF's mom. Without a hesitation, that is the accent I grew up with.
Yes.
Just hearing the word stairs, pronounced stairs, like I know exactly who that person is. And I was right. Teresa?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Again, the New York energy on that woman.
Yeah, my parents are very New York.
She's so sweet.
Yeah. And when I'm around them or Alexis too much, I start to sound, my New York comes out pretty heavy.
Are you able to conjure your New York accent?
Oh, 100%. I
have a hard time with it sometimes.
Because I did it in my act for a really long time.
Oh.
So, like, I would do, like, my dad's different friends, or this guy, or that guy, or what the fuck, you know, that thing.
The forget about it kind of thing.
Forget about it kind of thing.
Are we done? We good? That's a New York thing, I think. The we good?
We good? We good?
We good?
We good?
You want to go hang out? We'll do a little burp.
See if it gets on the jacket.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is just life, right? By the way, this guy's been a dream. Great.
Yeah.
Good baby. Like A+ baby. Sleep has been not terrible. Our first kid sleep was pretty tough. But you've been pretty good. And you're cute. You came out with all this hair.
We'll see if it lasts.
What do you think? You want to go back? You want to go sleep in your little pod? Let's try it. Let's try it, my guy. Wedding was wonderful.
Thank you.
Everyone was so sweet and lovely and funny. Great speeches.
Speeches were good.
Best man speech was killer. How do you feel about that? Receiving because Brie and I eloped because we had a whole wedding planned, and then COVID happened, and then I was like, fuck it, we're just gonna go off and do it ourselves. So I never got a best man speech, never got any of the stuff.
Yeah, well,
you got the stuff.
I got the stuff, and this was also wedding number 2 for me.
Right, you doubled down on it.
So I doubled down. So this wedding, I mean, that speech was, you know, I wasn't expecting. I'm not going to get too deep into what it was about, but I was not expecting him to go into some of the stuff that he went about.
Yeah,
and so it kind of got
quite
me.
Intimate. Yeah,
yeah. So it got me.
Just to summarize without details, it was a way that you helped him out in a very significant way.
And he also helped me out in a very significant way. Like, him and his wife got me through my divorce.
Oh.
You know? So it's it was like a really interesting thing.
You know, I wanted to say, now that I can kind of think a little more clearly, because he's sleeping on milk. You know, again, we've mentioned a few times, you and I are relatively new friends.
Yeah.
Getting to know each other. And I was, number one, so flattered that you invited us to the wedding.
Yeah.
Because, like, that's a extremely significant thing in anyone's life. And Brie and I were just like, oh my God, I was flattered you invited us. And we had such a great time. And it was such a shortcut to get to know you through a wedding, because I get to see all the family at once, get to see all the long time deep cut friends at once.
A lot
and
of
I hear
them,
a best man speech too. I got such a, I don't know if I'm filling in blanks or like I'm still, you know, like piecing it together, but the snapshot I got of you via other people, which you usually accumulate through friends over a number of years. And I got like just one big spreadsheet. How like he's squeaking over there. Of like how loved you are and how sweet everyone seems to think you are. It was really, I mean, it was so special to see, like, and also what people make fun of you for like this, like, kind of soft-hearted, like, well-intentioned guy. Yeah, and you know, like, I knew you as a stand-up comedian first, and I think every stand-up comedian has, like, professional defense mechanism. That's kind of what the job is to a degree, right?
You don't end up in this job unless something happened.
Exactly. You're fighting against something or defending against something or justifying something.
And then kind of to be good at it, you need to be able to break down that stuff to get past it.
Yeah. To have both tools there.
Yeah.
And I just, because you're also like a fully cooked man now. You're 41, like, I see how comfortable you are in your own skin, but then to see all your friends, like, putting that in context, I'm like, man, I just got, like, a real great snapshot of, like, what a sweet, sensitive, like loving person you are. And I put that on the record. I mean, it was great. It was such a cool thing. I want to thank you for inviting me, and also getting to see that is great. It was so cool.
Of course. It's funny, but I invited you pretty early into us starting the podcast.
Yeah, which I think
it was like maybe after our first episode.
Probably. It's kind of a blur.
A couple months in advance.
We were definitely like
very new friends at the time.
Totally.
But if I didn't invite you now, it would have felt weird.
So it was like kind of a long game you were playing of like, I think this is going somewhere.
100%. And when I like said to her, I was like, to Church, I was like, I want to invite Jesse. She was like, okay, cool.
Who is he?
No. She had met you the one time. You brought the plant to the house for the pilot episode.
Yeah. Right.
And it just, like, to me, it just made, I was like, this feels like it's going to go the distance.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was no hesitation on I don't want to call her Chuch. I don't have the...
you can call her Catherine.
Catherine.
Yeah.
On her part of like, all right, man, we're paying for 2 more meals of this dude that you were you met on Instagram
a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
All right.
It worked out.
Yeah, it worked out.
Yeah.
Should we?
Let's just get into a board.
Yeah, let's just
get
into a board. There's not going to be a smooth transition today.
No, there's nothing about this is smooth. But Henry's sleeping. While you were gone, a friend of mine DM'd me something about like some person examining like what the hipster was, and I texted you while you had a broken phone and had no service of like, we should talk about the hipster because it's like 20 something years ago that the hipster existed, and as soon as you got back,
lived in the peak of it.
Yeah, as soon as you got back, you're like, let's do that, and it just feels like something we can just fucking jump right into before we even get into the board of it. Like, I want to talk about, do you feel or felt at any point that hipster was a bad word?
Yes, and it came around on me.
Interesting. How did it come? What was there before and after?
When it started, everyone was like, I'm not a fucking hipster.
Yeah, no one.
Nobody wanted to be called that.
Yeah.
Because it was like derogatory.
Always derogatory.
Which I talk about in the board. I have some things about that. So nobody wanted to be it, but by the end of it, when it was like on its way out, it was like, yeah, I'm a fucking hipster. Of course, like now, if someone asked me, I would still, if someone was like, I am a hipster.
Yeah, I think I would say the same thing, but it also feels it's
aged well.
It's
parts of it have aged well.
Yeah, well, no, I'm thinking about it because like it's aged. It hasn't soured. I'll say that. Like but it does feel like just an old. It's just like dated. It's just a dated term that really only I feel like applies to people who are at youngest 37.
Yeah, and it's also one of those funny things where now even like when referring to that period in time in like culture and music mostly, because there was a lot happening in culture around that time, but I think probably the most popular thing was the music.
Yeah, I mean that really defined.
No one calls it like hipster music anymore. They would call it sleazecore. So it's even gotten rebranded since that time period.
The rebrand is also something to talk about because it's now referred to as indie sleaze.
Yeah,
which I also don't have a problem with.
No,
but so there's this great documentary about yacht rock.
Yes.
Which, have you seen this one yet?
No, not yet.
It's great. And it's Fred Armisen, of course, is on it. And they ask him the question, like, how do you feel about the name yacht rock? Well, he's like, well, it's the only musical genre that got its name way after the fact outside of classical music. Like, Beethoven wasn't like, I'm a classical musician, guys. He was just popular. It was pop. It was pop music. And then it became classical, and yacht rock wasn't, I don't know, it was just maybe
contemporary rock.
Yeah, top 40. I don't know what you call it.
I think
calling it rock is so funny, but but also like that music is like indie sleaze now, and it wasn't indie sleaze back then.
It's
maybe it was just indie.
Yeah, it was just indie rock.
Indie rock. Yeah,
and it's similar. That's like the its softer cousin, which was alt rock. which is now Dad Rock.
Yeah.
Which got the rebrand of Dad Rock.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're okay. I was going to argue that indie, like the indie sleeves was the only other genre to do that, but I'm realizing, everything kind of gets.
Yeah.
The edges get shaved off and then turns into like something we can put on a shelf a little bit easier.
Yeah. Calcify.
Yeah. So I feel like where I want to start, at least on what I put together on
Yeah, let's start with your side of the board.
Yeah, is I feel like I can't talk about hipster stuff without talking about the word scene. Was this in your lexicon at all?
It was not my lexicon at all.
It must be so regional or suburban. I don't know, because when I was in high school, like 2000, 2001, I graduated in 2002. 2000 to 2001 was like that sort of the pop punk emo thing was going on.
Yeah.
And I just don't think you have hipster shit without like this My Chemical Romance walked so the Strokes could run. Which I feel weird. I don't feel like, that feels a little strange saying that, but I do think the tiny blazers and look, is this also kind of just not goth Strokes?
It is goth Strokes.
It's ill-fitting suits for sure, but it's also, as we go through this, I think there's going to be a lot of common things that I can point back and say, like, Fall Out Boy and all this skinny jeans and Suicide Girls. Like,
when I saw the Suicide Girls thing, that made a part of my brain light up that I completely forgot about. I was
it should have remained unlit.
But there was like a 3 to 4 year period where that was just in normal culture.
Yeah.
Where
and also pre-American apparel.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so I want to say all of this stuff is true, but I think there's something that predates the scene emo thing, which if you go over to the right to my stuff, which is the Talking Heads and Pavement.
Yeah.
Talking Heads and Pavement
are art rock.
Art rock.
Yeah.
But also Pavement's like slacker rock.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
You don't get the Strokes without the indie art rock scene of the 80s and 90s, I think. Or bands like Guided by Voices or stuff like that.
Yeah,
that are kind of, or The Television.
Mm-hmm.
The Strokes are just doing a version of The Television.
Yeah, right.
I remember the first time I heard a Television song, if you would have told everybody hipster in that dive bar that it was on the jukebox called Gold Star in Chicago, that Marquee Moon was a new song by the Strokes, people would have been like, "Oh yeah, totally."
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
It's so no, you're absolutely right. But the specifically the art rock part of it, because I not by choice, just by it didn't penetrate my life. Pavement never really got in my brain.
Yeah,
but Talking Heads absolutely.
Yeah,
and I think I've always, even in this sort of meet me in the bathroom continuum.
Yes.
I think the chapters that I lit up the most on are TV on the Radio and the Yeah Yeah Yeahs.
Mine were
Strokes.
But I do love that. Mine are the Strokes LCD sound system, but I did also really love the TV on the Radio chapter. It's one of the best. The Yeah Yeah Yeahs one is also great. All of those bands were really great.
I saw the AAS twice in that period and never saw the Strokes because the art rock thing grabbed me. But these are, absolutely, Talking Heads are, it's hipster shit.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Okay,
so also, do you remember, this is very embarrassing to admit, and my buddy has a stand-up bit about this, but do you remember, even porn at that point, they were not, Suicide Girls is porn light, you know what I mean? It was photos of hipster-ish, girls. It was
the first time you were seeing that many tattoos that were it wasn't biker porn.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a wet magazine your friend found in a dream from his older brother.
It was it was pornography for our generation.
every generation gets their own.
It was targeted porn, which is the first time, because before this it was all
Henry, cover your ears.
Henry, cover your ears. Before this it was all 80s and 90s like
Pam Anderson, that kind of stuff.
Big fake boobs and all that stuff. Like, this is a girl you were hoping to bump into at your dive bar. This is the original OnlyFans.
Oh, totally.
Because it was like people.
It was finally you could shop local.
Suicide Girls was the organic section.
It was farm to table pornography.
Exactly.
And we were so appreciative. We always wanted to, stay organic.
Yeah. There was, I think you needed a membership.
Yes, you did. You're right. This is the first time I remember being on the internet and it being like, oh, I think I knew someone who was trying to model for it, and like she had a free login, and so I got the free access to it, and I was like, oh my God.
I had a roommate who worked in a video store, and at the video store they had an adult porn section, and there was like art school sluts, like series, like playing on this.
I don't. You're just also making me realize I don't think I fully acknowledge the role art school does play in this.
Oh, 100%.
And how it's such a huge, cause like, obviously colleges and campuses are a huge place where a lot of culture comes from, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like we'd like, it was like college rock was probably proto grunge stuff, right?
Yeah. And also another band that you could say was a huge influence on this of the college rock era was like REM.
Yeah. But the millennial art school experience, because these are boomer parents, and they were saying like, I want you to go like find what makes you happy and you'll never work a day in your life, like that kind of thing. And we all went to art school. We all wanted to be film majors. I
was a film major.
I was a film major too.
Yeah.
And we all, the art school specifically seemed to have like purchase in culture, in hipster culture, in a way, like it had to come from art school. I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't going to come from SUNY Geneseo.
No, but it was going to come from SUNY New Paltz.
New Paltz or Purchase.
Yeah. Or Purchase. Sorry, that's the one.
Yeah, that was my safety school I got rejected from.
Yeah, I got rejected from there too.
Hell yeah, dog. I was applied for their film program. They're like,
so did I. Yeah, which is funny because if we would have got in, we would have known each other.
Holy cow!
20-something years ago.
Yeah, that's wild.
25 years ago.
Oh my God. Yeah. Anyway, Purchase didn't want me.
Me either.
We're fine. We're doing fine without them.
Fuck you.
Would have been a lot cheaper than the school I went to.
Oh yeah, me too. So that's the other thing too. This is also, I think, part of the hipster hatred. Which is
hatred is a huge part of hipsterdom.
It's like it was like one of the biggest parts of the culture is people really shitting on it.
Yeah, everyone really loved to do it.
Which is funny because I feel like that was an extension of the like 90s, early 2000s of like fuck nerds kind of culture. And
which
like,
I am now really missing.
Yeah.
We really should have put nerds back in their place. Maybe at least like 10 years ago.
I don't know. I think that's why we have this problem. It's because we were mean to them. But like it's also like gentrification culture, which was a huge part of hipster culture. Which was like the original, like the backlash of gentrification. Like there were always bohemian hipsters living in like broke ass neighborhoods.
Yeah, and that's the history of Soho.
Yeah, and everyone was fine with it until Williamsburg.
There are so many of them.
Yeah.
I guess
Ukrainian Village. Like there's in Chicago, like every city still has a hipster neighborhood. But now it's just not called like the hipster neighborhood. It's just like
the expensive neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the condo neighborhood.
Yeah, it's where all the third wave coffee shops. And like, I remember like year one stand-up joke for me is like, I had a joke about how it was the first wave of gentrification. It's like, me and my broke art friends feel comfortable moving there. Then all the college kids start coming to our dive bars and move in with their backwards white caps and Jeep Cherokees. And the next thing you know, it's a mom pushing a stroller on our way to a Starbucks.
Yeah.
And you can buy a vintage shirt at the shop that used to sell vintage shirts, but don't worry, now you can get one at Urban Outfitters that looks like it used to be vintage. Yeah. Like I saw that transformation happen in 4-year period in Chicago.
It can move really quickly.
It became hipster culture started very uncommercial, and then became rapidly commercial within a matter of like 4 to 5 years.
So with the hatred in mind, I kind of want to move to the next section of this board, which I feel like is worth talking about, which is just what people who were not hipsters, what they thought hipsters were. Because I didn't realize until like now at 40 that like in the same way you were like you identify as hipster, I realized I do too, and I've always been defensive of it just because when people crack jokes about it, it's usually very lazy. Like you can make jokes about these cultures.
It's like making kale smoothie jokes 20 years after the fact.
Yeah, or like when people make jokes about LA, like everyone's worried about their chakras, and like, yeah, I understand where that comes from. That's also like a deeply unobserved version of Los Angeles. Like it gets so much worse than chakras.
Yeah.
It's so much worse if you're gonna. It's like RFK shit now.
Yes.
Like, so
Also, it's also a fucking like union town with a bunch of grips and like blue collar ass Mexican people.
Yeah,
like,
which is also just completely offensive to like that. It's just white people with money. It's ridiculous. But so this board, I feel like if you for years I witnessed like the marginalization of the hipster, which was like specifically this is like stock photos, right? But like it was. This is what people thought they looked like. It was always
there. This was like the far edges Portland version of it.
It's Portland. That's what it is.
And like the Portlandia version, where I saw a guy on Instagram, another comedian who I don't really know, talking about how basically how we dress now is just another version of like this guy. And
I don't disagree,
but I do because I think what people. Well, I wore this hat ironically today for this.
Oh, the trucker cap, of course.
Yeah, the trucker cap, which is broken in the back with the Ferrari logo. Like I wore this specifically for this episode to talk about hipster shit. Because
it's funny that I did not clock that as ironic.
Because here's the difference. I'm not an ironic person, right?
Yeah.
But so
irony in your 40s feels weird.
If it does. But so much in your 20s, it's like a tool to live by. And so much of like hipster culture was doing things ironically. The thrift shop, I'm wearing this stuff ironically.
Yeah.
Where like,
I definitely had a woman's t-shirt that said _1 grandma on it. And I wore that all the time. And that is peak.
Yeah.
Like 20 something irony.
Which like the t-shirt, the graphic tee was like one of the most important things in the world during that period. Like there were just t-shirt brands, online stores like Threadless. You remember Threadless?
Yeah.
That would just sell these like art-ish shirts that like all felt like rip-off Banksy paintings. Yeah. I actually have one here. If you zoom over a little bit, I think it's right there. Where it's like
this stuff.
Lady flying, swinging on two birds.
Well, this is
also
Portlandia. Put a bird on it, right? Yeah.
Also mixed with the American Apparel Deep V.
The Deep V. I had a lot of Deep Vs. They couldn't get any deeper.
I had maybe 1 or 2 Deep Vs, but I could not pull off a Deep V. I didn't have a Deep V body.
I was rail thin, so it just kind of looked like I was wearing like a poncho.
Yeah, I was doing no form of exercising except drinking lots of Pabst Blue Ribbon, the sponsored beer of the hipster generation.
Yeah.
And getting pretty chubby at the time. There's a photo of me somewhere around here looking like Seth Rogen. Not that one, but that one's also very embarrassing. My roommate took this in Chicago when we were just sitting around drunk in our apartment.
Wow.
But that was 20-year-old me, drunk energy.
I mean, I wish I could find it, but we had the same. This hair decision. Who were you going for?
I just didn't cut my hair.
Well, I understand that, but who in your head? Who were like, oh, I'm doing.
I wasn't doing anybody. I just I just grew out a fro because like I was like too lazy to go get a haircut.
Oh, I don't think I paid for a haircut between.
I cut my own hair.
2003 and 2008.
There's photos in here. I don't know where they are. Or I might not have re-downloaded it actually. But there's a photo of me, and I saw it today, and I was just like, "What the fuck is this haircut?" Because I used to give myself my own haircuts for like a long time, and I would just shave my head in my sink. And then I would hit a level with the afro where it was like too much. Where honestly now
I was on the same cycle.
Yeah.
Our hair synced.
Yeah. And then I would just shave my own head or like give myself like a cut down haircut.
Yeah.
And I have this big floppy hair where I was like, it kind of looks cool no matter what. And then I saw a photo today and I was like, oh, that's why you never got on TV. It wasn't that the stand-up wasn't there. You looked like a fucking mess.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was going for At the Drive-In, Mars Volta. I had a big Jufro, and I was skinny like a signpost, and I thought it looked very cool. And now I'm like, you look like a Q-tip.
Yeah.
It was a bit much.
Yeah, honestly, I would go back to this haircut.
I'm trying to get my way back to it, to be completely honest. I want to try and like justify it again. But
these were like the stereotype versions of
it. Was always suspenders, a fedora, and like interesting.
The joke was hair. Like guy on a unicycle riding down the street with a handlebar mustache.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think I ever saw that ever in Brooklyn once.
I did.
Did you really?
100%.
I don't think I ever
in
saw
Williamsburg. Yeah, but like
it was like okay, wait. I feel like it was this huge difference. It was this difference between like affectation and just sort of like grimy living.
Yes.
Which the hipster I knew was like everyone looked like they like slept in a dumpster and like shopped in American Apparel. And I just don't remember anyone like cultivating this much of like shit on their head and face.
I think this
was this dull.
This was also kind of more late stage.
It was. Well, I guess they're ever going to take the snapshot of the last time it's relevant.
Yeah, because this was like this period was pretty much from like 2000, 2001, right, up until I would say 11 or 12.
Yeah,
because I moved here in 15, and it like felt like we were moving away from it. Like I got divorced, I think in like 10 or 11.
Okay.
And I remember I got a haircut. I bought my first chore coat. I had on like a nicer thrifted sweater. And I remember walking into the Stand Comedy Club, and there's this comedian, Giannis Pappas, and he saw me, and I had like the comb to the hair side, like nice tape up comb to the hair. I got, remember I got it on the road in Atlanta, and
like Giannis, workwear was happening.
Workwear just started happening. And it's when this
Jenna Lyons had her beautiful hands around our throats, and we did whatever she told us to.
From J. Crew.
Yeah.
And it literally was this period where it went from like lumberjack hipster bartender to workwear, the boots, skinny jeans thing, and that ran until skinny jeans workwear guy ran until about 2000 until like 21, 22, and then
God, I guess it was that long.
And then we started
something. We got a little
in the pandemic. We were like, we want to wear loose jeans again.
Yes. Yeah, that happened real recently. It feels like.
Yeah, it was in like 2020 to 2023. Everyone started, because everyone was locked in their house, so everyone was on social media looking at mood boards of people having fun in the 70s and 80s, and everyone was like, oh, people dress pretty cool in the 70s and 80s. Let's run that back. And that's the version of like, take some of the stuff from hipster culture, take some of the stuff from the like workwear culture, and then it was just like, oh, I'm just doing 70s guy now.
I guess, well, I feel like it just fractured in 100 different ways. And then like, you feel like TikTok just sort of like souped it up and spread it out. And then you can kind of be...
Now you can just be whoever you want, do whatever you want.
And also like social media personalities didn't exist in this time. So we were judging each other by what I saw you wear on the subway.
Yes.
Not by what
There was like the tiniest bit of Facebook, and like maybe one person in the group had a digital photo, and you'd all go out and get blacked out drunk.
Yeah.
And then there would be like funny photos that you got tagged in on Facebook or MySpace.
Yeah. And like maybe Tumblr was sort of like collecting. That was a mood board.
Yeah, it was Tumblr was the original mood board. And then also, so if we go over to the side, towards the end of that, I think it came out in 2012. There's fucking look at this fucking hipster.
Right. Remind me what this was.
This Joe Mandy had a Tumblr or a blog, the comedian, who like did a lot of stand up and lived in Brooklyn, and he had a Tumblr called Look at This Fucking Hipster, and it was just photos of hipsters, but it was like the most ridiculous hipsters. So if you go over to the right, I have a link.
Was it in the lineage of like Vice Do and Don't?
Kind of, yeah. Okay. So right up above it is
the link
to the Tumblr. And you can scroll down, and see the years, and it gets.
Let's go back to like. To me, it's like 2000 already, but also yeah. All right, we're. You kidding me? I have to sign up for this shit.
Or just type it in again. There's the actual version of the Tumblr. This is the archive. I think if you want to. There you go. There's the actual Tumblr, not the archive. So if you scroll down, I don't know if this is the official one, but like towards the end, you can see this is getting out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is already, I can see J. Crew showing up.
Yeah. There's the deep V. Remember
this
the
image,
deep V?
This guy, were you on Found with like 6 F's in front of it?
No.
That was a pre-Pinterest site that was just sort of like a random. It was such a great way to find like visual inspiration because you couldn't. There was no rhyme or reason what you're going to see next. It was like almost like Tinder for it, like artsy, designy, photography-y kind of shit. And I used it all the time, just sort of like find design inspiration for what I was doing at work. But this dude on the right showed up all the time. I don't know who he is. I've seen this photo of this person 100 billion times. The sparrows on the hands, the deep V.
Oh, the sparrows on the hand tattoo. Oh my god.
Sparrows, right?
Yeah,
swallows.
Yeah.
So there's swallows.
Yeah, I forgot about that. But the deep V, the American Apparel. I also put a photo interesting of a book of all the marketing of the American Apparel. We'll kind of get into that. I don't know what this is.
Fantastic.
Yeah. That one you can at least, but like keep going down. That's pretty great.
Wild chest pieces.
Bike messenger culture of that time.
Culture, yeah,
was like a big thing back then. I feel like this is a pretty good one of like.
Absolutely,
the time
bars in Brooklyn had to have
that
a mounted deer head.
100%.
You really had to have it.
My buddy Drew, who
you buy an inflatable one at Urban Outfitters.
Yeah, my buddy Drew, who you sat with at my wedding, he had just like antlers in his WME office.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
And preferably you would put like sunglasses on it.
Yeah, 100%. But the funny thing is, it was all called hipster culture. But if you look at this culture, I was more this guy than anything, right?
Yeah.
And then you scroll up. That's also hipster culture. Like in the middle, like all three of those things were all rolled into one. But that's really just an ad for like American Apparel or something like that. You know what I mean? Keep scrolling. Yeah, like this kind of thing.
The headband, the swoopy hair.
Also, skinny jeans. Don't let those come back. It will fuck up your circulation in the back of your legs.
The oh god, what's his name? The Napoleon Dynamite vibe of all of it. Wes Anderson.
That mustache? Come on, look at this mustache.
Mustaches were a huge thing. Did the door just open?
Hey,
hi,
welcome.
You can hang out here if you want. Okay. Where were we? What were we?
We were just going through these
reflecting.
Different. Yeah, just kind of on these people. Keep scrolling down.
Yeah.
White people throwing up gang signs.
Oh, jeez. Book release. Oh, UCB Theater. Wow, all this.
And like this book.
Also, these people are all like
super famous.
Yeah, significant names in comedy now.
Yeah, it's also funny because they're all were like in that culture at the time of hipster culture, but also kind of shitting on it.
Yeah, and I think that's why I get defensive over it is when people like if you're not living in Brooklyn, Chicago, wherever, and you were like shitting on hipsters, like shut the fuck up.
Or people were, and they were just shitting on basically what were like extension of their peers. I think what part of it too is shitting on hipsters was like what making fun of sellouts were in the 90s.
Whoa, you're totally right.
Or posers. Because that's the thing. All the people you see are like the most extreme version of this. And the thing that made people uncomfortable, it was people trying on a culture to like be part of and just missing it. So it's like you would see the people who would take it to the worst nth degree and just didn't have good taste and were taking like people who were peacocking, as they would say at the time.
Wait, hold on. You're clicking something into place for me, which I think is like very well observed, which is the like we both read Meet Me in the Bathroom. We all know that's sort of like the origin story of it, and like we lived through like a cultural epic. You know, it's really cool that we got to like see that happen relatively not from the ground up, but at least sort of like, you know, happen in real time. And how frustrating it was to see people like seeing it years later or like from a far distance and come to it and then be like, look at me, I'm a hipster too, mustaches. And it was such a cartoon version of 100%. Something that was like genuinely
a real thing
and like meaningful to me, and I felt like I belonged for the first time.
Yes,
it was like
100%.
I was going to art school, and I had art school friends, and we were like, suddenly I was cool for the first time. Suddenly, me being like this skinny fucking weirdo who likes to draw with like hair that can't ever look cool, I was like, I'm getting laid for the first time ever. I'm suddenly like an ideal body type, which I've never been like in like Long Island, New York.
Yeah,
where I was like literally shoved like against and into lockers, like, and I was like a punching bag, you know, to be like suddenly on the other side
to
and
become
like,
the popular culture,
to be popular. I was finally fucking belong somewhere where I wanted to like, where I felt like I had like that edge isn't the right word, but like I could go somewhere. I got I got legs in this space.
Yeah.
You know? And for people to like reduce it to something of just like, I hope you like your artisanal coffee. It's like, but some of the most coolest rock bands in New York like come from this, and this is like this is like a real meaningful thing. And to just be like, fuck hipsters was, I think this is the episode where I'm coming to terms with like, yeah, I was a hipster and I liked being a hipster, and it was a label that I actually like welcome for the first time in my life.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm on board. I've been saying it forever. Like I remember towards the end of it, I would be like, people would be like, how do you describe yourself? And I would be like, oh, I'm a hipster. Because
but how old were you when you were saying that? Oh, when were you able to own it? Because I think I'm like just now
in like probably towards the end, like the 2012s period of it. When people would, when I realized
pretty progressive.
When people were making jokes about it, and I was like, these jokes are really lame. You know what I mean? When the people were doing the stereotype joke of it. Also, like, I thought the people who were in it, who I knew, were really cool. So the fact that people were like making fun of it, it was the same thing as like, it was like dads making the jokes, or like people who I also thought were lame. So it was like, yeah, of course you don't fucking get it. Like, you're not of it. You didn't fucking hang out in, you know, the Rainbow Room in Chicago and fucking drink Pabst until 4 a.m. and like wake up in people's lofts, or be like standing on a train platform and wave at strangers across the street. And then they'd be like, you want to come over? And
that's my first apartment. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were like, you want to come over and party? And then you would just like, cause you guys all lived in the same neighborhoods and like wore the same clothes and like,
with that in mind, just because we're talking about, I need to go back to the boards here, because I need to go to the section that I've labeled what hipsters actually were. So this is the like the outsider stock photo version of it.
Yes.
But then here's just like a collection of, this is my fucking life. This was me as like a little hipster. This was at my apartment, which we found. I when I start telling stories like this, I feel like I'm 10,000 years old talking about a version of New York City that like existed in a dream. But like, I found the apartment in the Village Voice. Like, does even Village Voice doesn't even exist anymore,
which is the saddest thing in the world.
It is. It breaks my heart. But it was like the paper version. It was an actual like paper version of the Village Voice that I got. I looked at it, was like, you know, this tiny apartment. Broadway Ave, was a JMZ train. I'm like, maybe this will be our place. To my college roommate, we were looking for an apartment together. It became a party apartment. We had so many great parties there, and it was
20-year-old party apartment cannot be beat.
It was a fucking great time.
We had an apartment on Ashland and Division in Chicago, like 1 block south. That like was my roommates were in an improv group called Let Them Hose Fight after a Ludacris lyric. And a couple of us went to Columbia College, and they did it like the midnight show on Fridays at the Improv Olympic. They would sell like 150 tickets to all these college kids, and then we would have a pop-up party at like a couple different apartments, and the only way you could find out where it was if you came to the show.
Oh.
And so everyone would come to the show. We'd have this fucking super fun comedy show. It would be over by like 12:45, 1 o'clock, and then we would go back to one of these apartments and party till like 6 a.m. And it was like the funnest time ever.
When I ask you something about comedy, and so when I started SVA and I had like no friends and like I was just like in a single dorm, I would go to ASCAP by myself.
Oh, fun.
Because everyone on SNL, it was like Tina Fey, Seth Meyers, Horatio Sands doing ASCAP.
If I had photos of those parties the way you do now, you would see several SNL alumni.
It's crazy. I mean, so that's amazing. So I would go by myself because I didn't have any other friends. And then I found friends at art school. And like, it's not that comedy, like it's not like we were self-serious or not funny, but pursuing comedy or being comic in some way was so antithetical to everything that was in our world of like art school and trying to make something great, I guess. And like one of the reasons, like I left New York City to pursue comedy, which is that doesn't fucking make sense.
Yeah.
I left New York City because I wanted to move to LA to pursue comedy. And one of the reasons, which I kind of like am really hesitant to admit, was just because I had all these art school friends and I didn't know how to like reconcile my graphic design friends with like wanting to do being a comedy dude. I had to completely rewrite my identity. And the only way to do that was to leave New York City and start blank slate in LA. Does that make sense though?
100%.
But like art school and comedy didn't mix. It was oil and water.
Yeah. Well, where I would recommend to anybody in their 20s who wants to do something new and artistic, move away from all your friends, all your family, and go get in a scene.
Yeah.
Because I did that. I moved to Chicago. I moved a couple other places. I did college upstate New York. I like lived in London for a while. Like I like was a kind of a vagabond drunk a little bit, and then ended up in Chicago for art school. But in the back of my head, you know what they did in Chicago? Comedy.
I mean, do you feel like the comedy town of Chicago is Chicago more of a comedy town than New York?
Chicago,
because in my head it's been planted that way.
Yeah, only because of the fact that in Chicago, in a weird blue collar way, they like respect the arts.
Really?
It's very strange because like
I've never even been to Chicago.
Second City, it's one of the best cities in the world. It's Second City started there,
yeah.
So it's just like in their culture, like Bill Murray and like.
I mean, the original
the Colbert
UCB4 is sort of like in the lineage of
100%.
Del Close was Chicago. Yeah.
Who, Del Close, I meant to bring this up earlier, has a comedy record from the 1960s called How to Speak Hip, which is a instructional like language record on like how to speak hipster culture from the 60s, because hipster is a term from the 40s and 50s from jazz culture. So that was another part of it too, with like the history of hipster. It's like when people started calling people that in the early 2000s, it's like, this is a jazz term from the 50s, from like Miles Davis's age. So it was like a weird thing that caught on.
It is weird that it came back that way. I wonder who was
which I think was part of my acceptance of it. I was like, came from the improv world. There were all these like cool artsy improv people starting out, and those were the ones who were like, you look like, when I got there, I was like, oh, cool teams like Rattlesnake High School, who like Mike O'Brien was on, or The Reckoning, that were these kind of like edgy art school rock and roll kids versus like the theater kids who were there. So to me, those like art school kids who were doing improv and like had like indie rock vibes, I was like, that's what I want to be doing.
Okay, wait.
But
go ahead.
The only negative thing from Chicago, I would say, is it had a culture of you can't try too hard, which also I think was like the culture of the early 2000s. Like
totally,
effort was considered like it
was lame.
Lame.
It was just lame.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah, you were supposed to be kind of like naturally
gifted and not try too hard.
Yeah, and it was supposed to just sort of come to you. And even I feel like even in New York, success was sort of like a, I don't know, we all wanted it, but we didn't know what it was supposed to look like. And if anyone,
but then you think about the people who actually like went after it, and guess what? They're all on the flyer for that show. You know what I mean? They were all like very driven people. Like, I think of like Donald Glover, who was in this sketch group in college.
Derek, right?
Yeah, he was in one before that called the Wild Hammer Cats, which was like the NYU sketch group.
Yeah.
And I remember those kids like putting out YouTube sketches and stuff like that. And just like, they just found that path because they like put in a little bit of effort, where in like Chicago, like to do an actual written sketch show, people were like, what are you, fucking nerds?
Really?
A little bit. Also, I don't think we've expressed this enough, but for people watching this, you have to read Meet Me in the Bathroom. It is a chronicle of this time period, and it is amazing.
It's a great read.
It's a really great read, and I recommend the audiobook too. It's really good. I listened to it while I was driving cross country, and every time they would bring up a new band, I would go listen to the album and then listen to the chapter, and it was a really fun way of doing that.
I'm just looking at the time. Do you have to get out of here
soon? Soonish, but we can keep it rocking and rolling.
Okay, because I want to briefly just talk about, because you mentioned Donald Glover, and we're just kind of talking about like comedy and being cool. And I felt like I came to LA because I had in my head I couldn't be cool and funny at the same time. Like that felt like you can't be aloof and a hipster and also doing like, I need a suggestion from the audience. Like that didn't exist in my head whatsoever. So I had to completely rewrite everything. And I moved to LA and I got involved in UCB, and then I was like probably a handful of like hipster improvisers because I wasn't a hoodie and Converse sneakers dude, you know,
which was hipster,
which is like, but it's like downstream hipster, you know, because it was lazy. Every dude could just sort of like easily,
every guy in that
flannel shirt.
Yeah.
But it feels like it is easier to be, well, actually, this is actually kind of a segue to this, like I think is the natural evolution of the hipster now, which is being cool and funny at the same time. Like, I didn't think those things you could do that. I think Gen Z does not give a shit about that.
Baby, I'm doing it right now.
Look at, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Look at us right now. Like, you can just do that. You can be funny. And Donald Glover, like, it took me a long time to get on board with Donald Glover because I couldn't reconcile the fact of how fucking cool he was and how fucking funny he was.
Yeah, but he's also like a nerd, and like it's all true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he had that evolution of like going from like kind of the dorky backpack rap, as they say, like punchline, like Camp is a great record. And then he slowly turns into the guy who makes like Redbone, and like
he contains all these multitudes,
and he's like grown,
and he has great taste.
Grown up and great taste in like Atlanta, and it's
But I wasn't, and he didn't seem to be bothered by this, but I wasn't allowing him to be both things. I didn't allow him to be funny and cool in my head. He succeeded despite that.
Yeah.
He seemed to have done okay despite me silently judging him. But he's clearly been, he's this interesting example of someone who just sort of like integrated that all like way early. And I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
Did you know you could do that? Did you feel that way?
Yeah.
Did you drag your feet as long as I did? Or you seemed like you were pretty on it?
Because there were people in Chicago who were cool doing improv. Like, I know that sounds weird, but
now it's funny. I feel like improv now
it feels like it's almost disappeared out of culture.
It was kind of the only thing like comedy that was being talked about for a very long time.
That and like the alt stand-up scene from that same time period, like your Kyle Kinanes, your Patton Oswalts, and
I think
stuff like
I have to imagine that also internet comedy just became so much more interesting to talk about because you could find a weirdo in anywhere, and they would be funnier than any fucking improv group. You would say,
but I appreciate improv.
It's on record. Your Honor,
I'm on the record because when it's really good, it's like amazing theater.
Yeah.
The only problem is most of the time it's not really good because it takes a lot of like practice and effort and time to be good at it, and certain kind of people. And like most of the people you see do it are people who are in their early 20s and deeply insecure.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
In my late 20s and deeply insecure.
Yeah. I think about going back and doing it for fun sometimes.
I think about that too, but I think I would have a heart attack immediately. Just the anxiety of doing it. I feel so unprepared. I know that's the point of it.
That's the point. Yeah.
I don't know. I was never great at it. I think I was always good enough to be with the people who are great at it, and to be outshined. Immediately.
I was in groups with the best people, and
I'm sure,
and I could keep up, but I didn't have the like confidence to like or drive to like push my way through.
Same.
It's funny because if you look at like who I was on teams with, it's pretty wild.
Like who?
Thomas Middleditch from Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Like doing 2-person improv with that guy's a trip. I can tell you that. Connor O'Malley, Lauren Lapkus.
Wow. Oh my God. Yeah. These are all.
Did some improv with Jordan Klepper.
Jeez.
Cypher Sounds. You know?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Who else? I don't know. There's a lot of them.
But they're all, yeah. I mean, like,
but also it's that funny thing if people don't totally get it that like in Chicago, or some of those people were in New York, some were Chicago. If you were just around, those were the people who were just around. They were one of the other 20 people in your class.
I know, right? Like I was in 101 with, I don't even know if you know them, Allie Beardsley.
That name sounds super familiar.
They recently played fucking Madison Square Garden.
Oh, cool.
Because they're in Dimension 20, that like that role playing, the like D&D thing that's huge right now.
Oh,
it's on
funny.
Dropout, you know, Sam Reich, College Humor, that whole lineage. They're like Ali and Zach Oyama I know from UCB, and they just played fucking Madison Square Garden, which is doing D&D improv.
Yeah,
which is wild.
That's what most people don't get, I think, about like these scenes that we're talking about, like the hipster scene or the comedy scene. Like the people were just around.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like if you read,
and that's why I get defensive because there was like there's sincerity here.
Yeah, and if you read Meet Me in the Bathroom, you're like, oh, fucking David Cross is hanging out with LCD Sound System and the Strokes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, like. Because that's who, like, you just went to pianos and, like, Todd Barry was at pianos and, like, fucking Ryan Adams. And people were just, or Regina Spektor. And you just kind of see people.
Yeah. I want to take this, okay.
Okay, let's
so
go
what I have here is, what I think is the natural evolution of the millennial hipster, which is, I think, the integration of, I realize that the integration of the cool and the goofy.
Yeah.
Which is the style which has been called eclectic grandpa, which I realize I had a cardigan on earlier, but I realized there's a stain on it.
I was a 2000s cardigan guy.
Cardigans had but like patterns and shit, like these, like these kind of cardigans at all. It's like, it's very Kramer. It's very hipster doofus.
Yeah, which I sent you an article earlier today, which is literally like, is Amy Leon Dior just doing George Costanza? Yeah. And it's a whole like file of just ALD looks that are all just Seinfeld looks. And you can follow the lady who did the costume and wardrobe for Seinfeld on Instagram. She has this really great account. And it's just, that's my version of the grandpa look.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's funny because my family has been calling me Cosmo Kramer, and people have been calling me Kramer.
My son's name literally Cosmo.
Yeah. But people have been calling me that for literally 20 years.
I mean, I was him for Halloween.
Yeah.
We both have the hair.
Yeah.
It's an easy one to do. But like even just this bottom left here. I mean, like this is some fire shit right here.
I would wear most of that. Yeah.
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 The crop pants.
The shoes are the only thing I'm taking a pass on, probably.
Yeah.
But the rest of it's great. But yeah, these are all people pretty much wearing that outfit. Also, we got to talk about how great Seth Rogen's been dressing lately.
When did he make the switch?
It was like 3 or 4 years ago.
I think it might have been longer ago.
It was around the same time there was that Jonah Hill GQ magazine.
Oh, maybe.
Did we ever drop the magazine?
Episode? No. That's
okay. Maybe we can either clip it out, or maybe just go back and like redo it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was around that same time period. He got a stylist. I don't know who his stylist was. And he just like kind of got in good shape and started taking care of himself.
I feel like it was once he started doing pottery.
Yeah.
You know? And again, it's this integration of like art school and being funny.
Yeah.
And those consistently are the people that like folks are, I think, charmed by. And whether it's hipster or not, I mean, like, I don't think Chapel Roan is exempt from this. That is art school. Whether she went to art school or not, that's art school shit she's doing, right?
Yeah, that's just Bauhaus and Madonna rolled into one.
Yeah, and it's fucking great. And I think even Sabrina Carpenter, to a point, is doing this.
It's a shtick.
It's like a pastiche of like cheesecake erotica, you know?
Yeah.
Billie Eilish feels so art school to me.
Yeah.
And everyone like needs to be funny. They are funny. The hipster, I think, derided for no good reason.
Yeah, and I think we're in our second. How do you zoom out? I think we're in. I think this is kind of the second renaissance of it.
Pass me the.
Oh, you know what's funny? I have who's this guy? Very famous.
Harry Styles.
Harry Styles. I have a card. I almost took a photo of me in a cardigan that Harry Styles wore. That his.
Oh, you have to hit the space bar at the same time.
That his stylist designed with Percival, that company in London, who I really like.
Oh.
And I have a checkered board Harry Styles cardigan thing. Okay. Nope, doing it all wrong. I forgot how to use it in the month I've been gone. You want to just slide over a little bit?
Yeah, here, hand me the mouse and
I just want to kind of see more of all this stuff before we get out of here. But this is all, this is grown-up hipster. And some of these...
Tyler is art school to me.
I fucking love Tyler.
This is literally Kramer. This is literally
it's pretty much the same outfit. Yeah, Seth Rogen, killing it. I love this outfit.
Are those Sabas he's wearing? Those are Sabas. I have had a couple pair of those. Those are great.
But it's throwback culture. Oh, that was me saying that was like the in between period. That was the end of skinny jeans, where it was like jeans, rock and roll.
I love this. You look like Elvis Costello here.
Yeah,
you look killer.
Yeah, thanks.
You look great there.
Yeah,
the big hair is working. Sometimes the big hair, it's hard to make the big hair work.
I'm back on big hair,
especially in this humidity.
Yeah, those are all old tour dates, so don't think I'm going any of those. Oh, Go Up one. That was me at my like peak hipster period.
The tie.
Yeah.
The tie. I mean,
that
hung around for a bit, but also, I mean, like, sorry, but this is where I think that like this look, and then we go back to My Chemical Romance. I mean, like little suits and ties.
Yeah.
I think sinister emo stuff was threaded throughout.
Which was also like pretty strokesy too, which I don't know if I included the photo. That's me in my peak Seth Rogen period of hipster. Yeah, that's me at like probably like 22, 23, and the one on the bottom is me at like 27.
I mean, if you know when I was briefly doing commercial auditioning for like a summer.
Yeah.
And everyone talks about it. That moment you walk into a room and you see like 18 different versions of yourself. You're like, I am not the best version of me. I can see 3 people who are the better version of me for this commercial. That's downstream of Seth Rogen for sure.
I'm Seth Rogen, Jonah Hill. Same type.
Yeah. It's like, pick one, man.
You
can only be one.
I was in the lane with those guys. And then me really out of control just before I got sober is this guy.
I'm not going to lie. You don't look healthy here.
No, I was not healthy there. But the hair, killer. I love it.
Hair looks good.
I don't know how I had that good hair.
It's very Jarmushy, I think.
Yeah. Jarmusch, Tom Waits, those are also my guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Should we pause there? I mean, I feel like we can go kind of forever about this, but
yeah, I know there's stuff that
did we reach a conclusion about the hipster? Did we explain the hipster really at all? I think for me, I just realized that I probably still am a hipster.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm just hipster doofus now.
Yeah.
Or
hipster dad.
Hipster dad.
Yeah. Which definitely holds true. Your son was on half of this episode.
Thank you for rolling with me on that one.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's funny. It's a fun walk back to look at. And we didn't even talk about like the drinking, partying, drug use side of it, which was like a whole other darker side of like what was going on. It was like both wholesome, felt nice to have a place of their own, and it was like a place to party and explore who you were in like a fun, comfortable way. I'm
going to go out on one last question for you.
Okay.
Which I do not know the answer to because I'm an old man. I'm not a young person anymore. But it kind of feels like this was obviously centered around music, but it's centered around a shared lived experience of like a location, several locations, music, a way to dress. And from what I observe about young people being 20 something, is that they don't really get this anymore. It seems way more centered on one musician and being a fan of that musician.
Yeah, I think there's smaller pockets of it now. Where this was like the whole culture.
There's like a zip codes though. You could like
yes, where now it's like you might have 7 friends who are into mumblecore and you guys all have face tattoos, but it's not like you can go to the mumblecore neighborhood.
Right. It's not in the neighborhood.
Or not mumblecore, mumble rap.
Mumble rap. Yeah.
You know, mumblecore was a movie scene taking place during the same time as this hipster scene.
The Duplass brothers.
Duplass brothers are part of that.
Yeah.
Movies like Funny Ha, all the Joe Swansburg movies. Francis Ha is like the late stage version of that. That's
the
like
early Lena Dunham stuff.
Yeah.
But again, all centered around a neighborhood. Or like that's interesting. And I think part of the hipster part of it is that there were neighborhoods that you could lust after going to.
Greenpoint. It's hard to get there. You're going to some Polish bar with $2 beers. You're going to get drunk, and then you got to figure out how to get back to somewhere with an actual train stop.
Yeah, like the G. What am I doing with the G train?
I'm
just going to walk to the Lorimer.
Exactly.
Yeah. Bedford, probably. More like the Bedford.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hipster. I kind of miss it.
I mean, I still listen to the music all the time because it makes me feel juiced and young. It makes me feel inspired constantly. And there's like lots of stuff from that. There was so much going on in that time period that there's stuff that I missed that I can still discover and find.
What's up next for us? You're back in town. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I'm on the road this weekend, but this won't be out by then, so no one needs to know about that. And then I'm back on the road a bit in like May and June, and I'm just going to be around a bunch. So I'm going to be doing a lot of shows in LA, and like
I feel like our year is starting now.
Yes.
Now that you are married, I have a second kid. I'm going to figure out who knows how many kids will be joining me. On this podcast moving forward, but
do you got a recommendation as we head out? I thought of one just at the end. That's what made me think of it.
You go ahead.
Clap Your Hands, Say Yeah.
Whoa, I forgot about them. I really like that album.
From that time period, but from the later period, that was like one of the best bands. Probably like a 2006. They have a self-titled album, and they've put out new music recently.
Are they really?
Also fucking great.
It's
the
good?
new records are awesome.
You know who I am? This is a music recommendation that feels from that era, maybe. Is that band Idols? Do you know them?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. I've gotten so into them.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like, am I still allowed to like guitar rock? But it's what I love.
Yeah.
I still love it.
Yeah.
It's great. They're great.
Awesome.
Also really quick. So the thing has happened. I've been a casual Lord of the Rings fan. Something has happened. I've gone deep into it.
Oh, really?
I'm so deep into like Lord of the Rings fandom now. Like something I don't know what it is.
Okay, we'll do a board about it.
We'll do a board
and
about
we'll have Shane Smith on, who's the biggest Lord of the Rings fan I know. To the fact where he has given PowerPoint presentations that are over an hour long.
I want to talk to people who are more experts on it than I am because I'm so obsessed with it now.
One of my most hipster friends growing up. Who disappeared, who was kind of more almost in the emo phase, had the Lord of the Rings tattoo from the elfish from the ring wrapped around his arm. And that was the guy I was supposed to go backpacking through Europe with, who, that was like my bright eyes, hot heat friend. Remember Hot Heat? Canadian Strokes?
They were the Canadian Strokes. Yeah. Lord of the Rings. I recommend it.
Yeah. I read The Hobbit. It's good. I also watched the flight from Tokyo was 9 hours, and I was like, I'm going to watch all 3 Lord of the Rings movies.
Did you have fun time?
I watched the first one, got halfway through the second, and then I was like, I'm going to sleep.
It's very cozy.
But the DVD box set extras, go buy a DVD player for $15 on eBay and buy the extras box set. There's a great featurette. You remember featurettes from DVDs of It's like maybe a 30 to 45 minute featurette about the horses in Lord of the Rings and the actors' relationships with their horses, to the point where Viggo Mortensen bought his horse at the end of the movie.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
That really makes me smile. Lord of the Rings, check it out if they're in your neighborhood. Great to be back.
Great to be back.
And mazel tov to you.
And to
you're a married man.
You're a dad.
Ay, caramba. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.